Congresswoman, I want to ask you just out of the gate, given all of this activity around here and the information that's now beginning to brew, you've got at least two Republicans that have made it, interesting at least, that have signed onto legislation demanding Epstein documents be released, including Oversight Subcommittee Chair Jeff Van Drew. Could committee Democrats get those Democrats on board, do you think? Is this a way, an open door opportunity for Democrats to join? Or Simone is looking at me kind of funny, and Elise is too, so I don't know if that's going to be a real thing.
Well, we'll see. You know that my colleague Ro Khanna from California and Thomas Massie have legislation requiring the disclosure, and there is such a thing called a discharge petition. The Democrats are in the minority. We don't have the capacity to compel, attendance to call the hearings. I mean, the majority does that. But there is a failsafe, which is if 218 members of the House sign a discharge petition, then the bill is discharged to the House for a vote. And it needs to ripen. One of the speculations yesterday was that we might not meet because it becomes ripe for signatures right away when we go back on Monday. And I plan to sign it. And I think most Democrats, probably all the Democrats will. And I think some of the Republicans will as well. And so that may bring this whole thing to a head. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, the Democrats in the Judiciary Committee have asked the chairman to have hearings. Dick Durbin's letter was, very interesting. There's been a lot of discussion about grand jury testimony, but that really, you have to be very cautious. I'm not sure the court would permit it, but there are victims that testify. Their privacy has to be respected. You don't want to re-victimize the victims, but there's tons of evidence that is not in the grand jury. I mean, FBI 302 reports and videos and other documents that were obtained from the Epstein residences and on and on and on. So we know, I guess, that all of that is there. I mean, Bondi even mentioned that there was a lot of stuff in New York. And now Durbin's letter, apparently someone has given him the news that 1,000 FBI agents working in round-the-clock shifts were going through all these documents and asked to flag anything with Trump's name on it. So we know there's a lot of documents, and I just think, with the exception of redacting to protect victims, it just has to come out because people are so suspicious now. That suspicion was really generated by President Trump and Bondi and Patel and all of these folks. But now the whirlwind is there, and we've got to put this behind us.
Congressman, you referenced Senator Durbin's letter to both Patel and Bondi, talking about 1,000 FBI agents working round-the-clock shifts. I want to read just a little bit from that, because in addition to that, these folks were not necessarily properly trained. It was haphazardly supplemented by hundreds of FBI New York field office personnel, many of whom lacked the expertise to identify protected information regarding child victims and child witnesses or properly handle FOIA requests. So you got that piece. And then I want to underline this because I think it is so important. My office was told that these personnel were instructed to flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned. Why? Why would they be asking for that flag, Congresswoman?
Well, I mean, we do know from the pictures that, and even the president's own statements, that he and Epstein were friends and they hung out together and they spent a lot of time together. So presumably there's Trump evidence in the pile of material. And certainly Trump has taken a step which no president has done since Nixon, which is to try and run the Department of Justice for his own benefit. It doesn't surprise me, given that attitude, that he would want to protect himself if there's a damaging material about him in those evidentiary materials.
Congresswoman, I mean, you are making very good and key points. I guess The Epstein story is metastasizing at this point because of the actions of the White House, because of reporting. I will note for folks, it was investigative reporting that led to bringing the charges in 2019, the federal charges against Epstein in the first place. While all this is happening, this is a very real story. We don't know where this is going to go over the next week, but there's also the rescissions package, the clawing back of money, the essential defunding of public media that's happening, the Medicaid cuts that are coming from the bill that the president has signed into law. How are Democrats within your caucus right now talking about how to talk about all these issues at once to their constituents?
Well, we are talking a lot about the rescission, but also the big, ugly law, the bull. And we are also talking about some of the other unlawful actions that are really harming America. I'm the senior Democrat on the Science Committee, which is a bipartisan committee. But outside of the committee, the administration is basically trying to destroy the science enterprise of this country that our prosperity is built on. So we're talking about that all the time. But, you know, we are not in control of what the American public is concerned about. Obviously, they're more concerned about inflation and losing their health care than this Epstein story. But there's a big chunk of the American public that's really upset, and they think they've been lied to, and they're suspicious. And so it is also important to regain public trust by releasing this information while making sure that victims are protected. The lawsuit that Trump filed is interesting. I mean, I thought, you know, he's wanted to make it easier to bring libel cases, but the assertion really met the standard in New York Times versus Sullivan. He's not trying to overturn that standard. But, you know, my first thought was, you know, in defamation, truth is a defense. I think, you know, the defendants here are going to have a field day with discovery.